The Renegade Accelerator is open for enrollment. Female leaders, executives, founders who are asking themselves, why not now? This is for you. Head to renegadeaccelerator.com. I'm Amy Jo Martin. Welcome to the Why Not Now Show. Sophia Amoruso is back on the show. She was one of our first guests in 2016, more than 300 episodes ago. When we recorded, Sophia had just been named one of the richest self-made women in the world by Forbes. She was on the cover of Forbes. She was the founder of Nasty Gal, which is named one of the fastest growing companies at the time. And she definitely was known as Girlboss. She had her book, Girlboss, as well as the platform behind all of this. Well, there was a TV show being made about her life that was going to be appearing soon on Netflix. And then about a month after we recorded, her entire world changed in every which way. Sophia catches us up and she fills us in on what she's doing now. I have so much respect for her tenacity, for her figure it out muscle, her creativity, and her ability to be real, because there are a lot of narratives out there. When someone like that is in the spotlight, it's not always easy to actually show up and share your own story, right? Share what is really going on. And then the lessons, the gold that she has to share today. Sophia fills us in on what she's up to now. She founded Trust Fund, which is a fund investing in entrepreneurs, and she's doing this in a very unique way. She shares her new passion for poker, and she's getting ready to turn 40. How's that feel? She fills us in. There's so much discussed. Nothing was off limits here. And without further ado, here is Sophia Amoruso. Sophia, welcome back to the Why Not Now show. It's been a little while.
It has been. So much has happened. What has it been? 5, 6 years?
I think 7 or going on 8 even.
I know. You've been doing this for that long. That's amazing.
I know. I think this is the most consistent thing I've ever done in my entire life. But it's not, it hasn't been every week. But yeah, I know. Right?
Yeah.
Well, welcome back. And we've seen each other just a couple of times in the interim. But 2016 is when we first recorded. I'm sure there have been a million Why Not Now moments since then. But can you tell me about something, a moment when you had a big decision to make and you had to ask yourself, why not now?
I feel like every decision I make is a why not now. So the answer is, why wait? Which is, I guess, the same thing. But it's like, when I think of something, unfortunately, I choose to do it. The delta between thinking why not now and doing it is often too short, and I could be a lot more strategic. So I think, what your answers typically are on this podcast, are people who are, we're trying to like maybe rile up and get the confidence to make big moves. And there is something to be said about being thoughtful and strategic and mindful and planful about it, but that's not my strong suit. And for those of you who have found the delta between why not now and okay, I'm ready, and that not being too long of a delta, I envy you, and I'm still learning how to do that, which is why I'm doing way too many things.
Which actually, we're wired very similarly in that. And oftentimes it's why not now stop something. Right. And maybe we need to get really good at that, Sophia. Like that could be our new club of why not now stop. But as a quick start in most things too, sometimes we can also false start. So has there been anything where you are, yep, let's go. And then you're like, hold up. Actually, I don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah. I feel like I get myself into stuff and then it ends up kind of working. And then I'm like, wait a second, I didn't forecast what this would be like when it worked out. And, I'm so grateful that the things I tend to start work out, but then you like inherit the commitment that you make. And you're like, wow, I need to sustain this now and for an indefinite period of time, whether it's a podcast or a venture fund or an online course business or a community that you create, right? I've done all of those things. So I guess one thing is that I was creating this group, I think similar to what you're doing in 2022. And a lot of women applied, had some awesome women that were ready to go. And I realized I just wasn't ready to lead something like that. And while I hate disappointing people and saying, you know what, I changed my mind, especially when they've, bought into something, they're excited about it. It was a pretty small group. And maybe that was one of the issues, is that like it was too small of a group. And I didn't, maybe my audience are running much smaller businesses than I was thinking. And so I was like, okay, like I need to be more thoughtful about this. And I unwound it, and it wasn't a big unwinding. It's not hard to kind of prop up an awesome vault of women who are business owners and share things they wouldn't otherwise. But I just wasn't ready. And I was more mindful about it, launched, it's called the Fly Private Mastermind, and it's really small. Finally did that in, I think, July of this year, and I've really enjoyed it and was ready for it. But put in so much time last year to review applications and all of it, and just ended up killing it. And that's, the 2 steps forward, 3 steps back thing can be really frustrating for you, but especially frustrating for your team. So I try to be very cognizant of that, and people not feeling like they're wasting their time, spinning up projects and then unwinding them.
I can like see my team nodding right now. But let's talk about that, because it seems, as I've been tracking your career since I became an entrepreneur in 2009, because you were like, just even, I'd say a little after that, but watching, I had so much affinity, and seeing is believing, I feel, to how resourceful you were, and kind of that, we can call it chip on our shoulders, I guess you'd say, especially starting off. And then we spoke in 2016, and I was going through a major season of expansion, transition. And you have, it seems to me, as I've been tracking and listening, you've really put those lessons into place about intentionality. And it appears that you're very good. Like even hearing about business class and how automated it is to a certain extent by design, because you knew exactly what you wanted. Mm-hmm. But can we go back, because the episode aired in September of 2016, and then so much happened in the months that came along after.
I know.
Right. Of course, you lived it, right?
Everyone's like afraid to be like, and then your company fell apart. They're like, a lot happened. How do I articulate that?
Well, and I'm sitting on I literally wound my company up just prior to that. And so I'm watching, and I think how you've navigated, and then also, again, applying those lessons, but you're so honest. And I really, really appreciate that about you. Because so many people aren't real about what really goes on. But can you catch us up a bit? When we interviewed, you were, I don't know if it had come out yet that you were on the cover of Forbes, and the TV show I had either just watched or was getting ready to, and all that jazz. And then it was like, here come the headlines.
Yeah, it was a brutal time. In the span of 2016, I was like on top of the world. In June, on the cover of Forbes. July, my husband of less than a year, who had dated for like 5 years, it wasn't some fly-by-night thing, decided to leave. And this is all while they're making a Netflix series about my life that hasn't come out yet. That's about the origins of Nasty Gal. And by November of 2016, I had left Nasty Gal. And the Netflix series came out in April of 2017, depicting this girl starting a company called Nasty Gal, while I was, for the first time in my life, no longer part of, first time in a decade, no longer part of Nasty Gal. So there was this huge, PR campaign coming out about this girl that I was 10 years prior, a few months after a bunch of negative press had hit. that was like, is she not a girl boss? There were headlines like, does the fall of girl boss mean that millennials aren't ready to lead? And it's just like, wow, representing a generation, that's a lot of pressure. So it was a major whiplash of like a high and a low, major low, and then just this big kind of conflation of who I was as the girl boss, who I was as like a real CEO, this character on television who is like a comedic adaptation of me. And is she really like that? Oh, she's she's abrasive. Oh, she is a nasty gal, whatever. And it was just like everyone shouting about who I was all at once. And at that point, I was like, are any of them right? Am I any of those people? I don't think so. There's definitely some truth here and there, but it was really strange. Netflix goes into that time it was 130 million homes in 195 countries. So that's a lot of people. It's a lot of eyeballs. And television literally has people whose jobs are called critics. Like it comes with that. And there's another headline that was the worst thing about Netflix's Girl Boss is its source material.
I just have to take deep breaths even thinking about when you were going through that, and I've heard it you interviewed before of like the darkest day. It wasn't necessarily business tied. It sounds like it was more, about your marriage. And if you were to look back now, what simple strategies did you figure out to get through the day? Like, were there little things where you just, if this and that, I know you're scrappy and I know you're resourceful, so bring them.
Yeah. I mean, I was like, why not now with Girl Boss, right? So I started my second company right away. It was this thing, I published the book in 2014, in early 2014. It's been almost 10 years. And, it sold 500,000 copies and it's been 18 weeks on the New York Times bestseller list. And the hashtag Girl Boss and the noise about Girl Boss, and people called it a movement. Like me naming something I did a movement would be really weird. But the noise of Girl Boss at that point had become louder than the $100 million a year revenue company I had built. So by the time by the time Nasty Gal fell apart, filed for Chapter 11 in November of 2016, the day Trump was elected, I had stepped out of the CEO role. I didn't enjoy that role. I had hired someone with a lot more experience than me. And I had started a podcast called Girl Boss Radio in 2015. So I was doing other things. I had published another book called Nasty Galaxy. And I guess you could say I was like distracted, but also I wasn't in the CEO role. I didn't want to be in a day-to-day role, and ran with Girl Boss. It was this thing that women were like, waiting for. It's something they had taken and run with on their own, created their own identities around, went from I'm a nasty gal to I'm a girl boss. And it's so amazing to create something where people identify with it to the point of saying like, I'm a blank, right?
Question for you on that. So because you are a master at creating disruptive brands that just cut through, when you were doing that and you were like, all right, we're doubling down on Girl Boss, here we go. Do you remember feeling like you're pressing from a place of, I'm going to prove this to everybody else, I'm going to prove it to myself, and or just I need to figure something out? Or like, were you super like self-aware at the moment? All of it?
It was all of that. And it was like, and it was also like, I need a job. All I know is how to start things. I can't like afford to go away for a year. I was on the cover of Forbes, but it was because I was worth a lot of money on paper. And when Nasty Gal fell apart, I was still worth whatever you want to, it's like I own a house and, I pay for 3 poodles dental care. Life is expensive, but I also needed to make a job for myself, and I'm completely unemployable. And so I saw what was sitting there, by November, December of 2016, I was like, all right, this Netflix series is hitting in like 5 months. What can I do to prepare for? I'm a marketer, right? Like, this series called Girlboss is going to market this thing called Girlboss in a massive way. So what can I build in those 4 months as like a mitt to catch, the wave of awareness that would be coming around the term and me and whatever, as weird as it was and twisted as it was going to be and comedic and whatever, pop culture. So I was like, I'm doing a conference, and decided in April of 2017 to hold something called the Girl Boss Rally and make a little Squarespace site and sell tickets. And it sold out in a few weeks. And this was like a time where I felt like a total pariah, but I knew there was like enough girls who loved Girl Boss, who had followed me, who weren't like, like they weren't the press. They still loved Nasty Gal. And they still, the book had done so much for them. And so 500 women showed up in April. I had, the cast and a producer from the Girl Boss Netflix series on stage there, Emily Weiss from Glossier and Tyler Haney and Kevin Systrom, the founder of Instagram, spoke on stage. And it was like everybody who was already there for me showed up. There was no one in my world, not my like publicist or my agent at WME. I don't have either of those right now. We're like, we're dumping you. We won't touch this. And all the women I had met through business, all the incredible like business leaders and women in venture and creatives, and, they all showed up. And there was like 50 speakers and 500 women and sponsors. And you'd think like, wow, they wouldn't touch me with a 10-foot pole. But like Amex showed up and Shopify showed up and some really awesome brands. And it became a media company. And then I was like, oh shit, I started a business. I guess that's a why not now, but a why not maybe, maybe I should have, maybe I could have taken a beat, there.
Okay, so let's go there. So I think that's like, you're so highly capable that we ran into each other. I think it was it this January? Yeah, it was this January, I think, in Hawaii, of all places. So bizarre. At a coffee shop. Twice.
Yeah.
And the conversation really stuck with me, and it always will. But you're jamming, you're getting things done. But it seemed like, as we were talking, this is someone who's really kind of figured out the value of her own time. Kind of back to this time and money thing. And whether or not, we're always learning, and this is active learning. But you're surfing, and I also see what you're doing out there in the world as a recipient and consumer of content, but also following with respect, and see trust funds start to surface. And we talked about that. But what has happened over the last 7 or 8 years with your relationship with time and money?
It seems like time has gotten a little longer, even though time flies. I was just, I was in such a haze with the book and the company and the press. And, during Nasty Gal, it just kind of flew by. And I have an appreciation for time and for time alone and for travel in a way that, and space, and in a way that I hadn't before. But you caught me at an interesting time, because I was coming off a really great year in 2021 with business class. And 22 ended up being a lot tougher. Or was that 23? Yeah. Okay, God, that was this year.
This year. I know. I can't believe it was this year.
Since then, I had I had a small house in Kauai that I bought in early 21. I've sold it.
I know, because I remember that's partially when we bumped into each other, a mutual friend had heard about this or whatever. It's so bizarre.
Yeah.
So no more trips out to Kauai lately?
It was like a COVID thing. I haven't been back since I sold it. I couldn't go back when it sold. I was just like, it was emotional, but I just wasn't spending as much time there. And to your point, I was surfing and stuff, but like things changed really quickly. And now I'm like inundated with things I've committed to. It was the end of January this year that I announced in TechCrunch that I was starting a venture fund. So I was there probably like, also just spending all night trying to build like a website and a type form and tee up, press and get investors in Trust Fund, my fund, Trust Fund,
which we are definitely going to talk about here in a second, because I remember you were definitely doing that. We were having avocado toast, I think, at the same place where I was, and you were jamming.
I find it hard to turn off. Just back to time and money. I feel like I'm not answering your question. 21, I was much better. 22, I still kind of like fucked off a little bit. And 23, I'm like, all right, shit. Like, I need to think about my legacy. I need to think about what I'm doing for the next 10 years. I create content, but how's that going to look when I'm 50, right? I turned 40 in April. Probably fine, but is that something I'm going to enjoy doing? So, what can I tee up now that is going to take a ton of time and be really grueling while I'm doing these other things like my online course business class and digital content and things with sponsors as an influencer, whatever. I don't even know like the number of things I'm doing so that eventually maybe I can do one thing. Because it's been a while, since I did one thing. I did it for about a year with business class. And as far as money goes, it's like I care a lot about money. I'm very motivated by money. I care about making an impact in everything I do. Just kind of naturally, the runoff is that it makes an impact. And now with investing and working with entrepreneurs, which is like all I really want to do, it does, is how I spend my time. But I care a lot about money and I'm very motivated by it. And my relationship with it tends to be kind of stressful because I'm always and always have come from this kind of, I guess, lack mentality of like, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I don't know if people are going to care about what I'm doing. Is this going to fall apart, especially after having things fall apart, right? My appetite for, my understanding of like my own mortality, both in business and I think also personally as you age, that can happen, is something that's sadly developed over the, probably since we recorded our first podcast, but also that's a kind of a beautiful thing, creates a sense of urgency that I don't think I had in the past.
Do you associate the two very closely, your time and money? So from a just scarcity perspective, you've seen a lot and you've on even paper, same here, or just over my life, I've seen some pretty big roller coasters. So how do you say no? What are some of the things you do to figure out what to say no to? Because you're really good at creating opportunity.
I know it's weird. It's like dangerous when I'm really good at manifesting stuff. And then, like I said, I inherit my commitments and then I'm, down the road, like, is this really the best way to spend my time? And I'm not flaky, but there are times where I'm really, I guess, like surgical and unapologetic about changing plans and to the point of possibly disappointing people. Because, I have a greater responsibility to, whether it's my team or my future or my focus and not dropping the ball on kind of the bigger priority. As I sit here and when I spend my time, I know that the biggest impact I can make is spending time on things that have a material, financial impact to my business. And that doesn't always mean having conversations about money. It could mean, for trust fund, right? Spending time with one of my founders and their company, succeeding as a result of that is great for the fund. It can seem a little bit nebulous, but that's, I've raised a lot of money at a poker table, right? For the fund, like probably close to $1 million, just playing poker with dudes, which I love. And I'm like getting better at it, or going to a conference and not even speaking at it. I know that sounds like weird. You go to a conference, you don't know who you're going to meet. It's just like, oh, what might come of this? I paid for a conference this year for 2. One was really worth it, and one not as much, but like increasing the surface area of serendipity. I only heard one person say that, so I don't know why I'm using quotes.
Sounds like something Tony Hsieh used to say.
Serendipity is like a kind of a magical thing, but you don't know what's going to come of spending time doing things like mingling. And while saying no is important, being really strategic about the rooms you put yourself in is also something that throws off money, and money can throw off more time. And you don't know what happens 10 years down the road from someone you meet at a freaking conference or business dinner. But I'm strategic about which of those I say yes to.
We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. Female leaders, executives, founders, heads up, the Renegade Accelerator is open for enrollment. Renegades are at the top of their game. They're doing all the things, but usually there's something that they really want to do. What you do is you bring your why not now idea, into this 8-week program. We're focused on curriculum, the renegade mindset, collaboration, and accountability. We are all focused on growing our thought leadership, finding more time in the day by leveraging our presence so it is present even when we are not. We are focused on optimizing our time and money and health. It is a mosaic of all types of women from different backgrounds at the top of their game, and the value exchange is exponential. Here are some why not now ideas that have come to life through Renegade. Why not now write the book? I want to get a board seat. I want to increase my speaking fee. I want to build a company. I want to pivot from corporate into entrepreneurship. I want a promotion within corporate. I want to move my brick and mortar company online so I have more freedom. I want to travel 25% of the year, but not see a dip in income. Those are a variety of why not now ideas that have been greenlit. They're done. What is your why not now idea? We're ready. If you're ready, head to renegadeaccelerator.com for more information and to apply. What do you think is your X factor when you look at your success over the years and your ability to just create something out of nothing? What is so unique about you?
Puns, copywriting, I don't know.
Really?
Making businesses and then manifesting what it is after I name it. I don't know. I think charisma is part of it. Being able to access great people and curate great people, even if it's just in the beginning, it was hiring people who, for the most part, at least for a while, worked well together at Nasty Gal. I'm actually curious about other people. So everywhere I go is an opportunity to learn. And people are really flattered when you ask them how to do things or about their experience or how I should be thinking about something. I ask a lot of questions and I'm always digging and I'm always reverse engineering things. And then also there, again, there's that kind of sense of like I said, lack. It's just like this could all go away at some point. So, what can I do now to make the most noise, the most strategically in a way that people are going to connect to and really think about? And I would say, if there was really one answer, because I know I'm kind of rambling, it would be that I create things that are aspirational while at the same time being approachable. So Nasty Gal was like, wow, like this model or this style or this attitude is like one step ahead of where I am, or maybe a little bit. It's like the kind of confidence I want to exude, but not so confident or so high fashion that it's unrelatable. So that delta between who someone is and who they want to be and creating something commercial that serves as a mirror to their future self. And with Girlboss, it was the same thing. It was like, oh, wow, I'm a community college dropout. I figured this stuff out. If I can, there's a high likelihood you can too. My story is aspirational in where I was at the time I wrote the book, but also, what got me there and the tools like eBay and PayPal and Google and figuring it out are all things that anybody can do. And most of us with an internet connection have access to. So I'm a girl boss, not being about like, I'm a billionaire or a millionaire, but maybe I can start my own business. That was what it was about. It wasn't even about hustle culture and all the other stuff it kind of warped into over the last decade.
Like highly relatable yet and relevant yet. That I love how you said the delta between where you are now, where you're headed, and that mirror. It's such power for someone, to get them to take their own action. And clearly you've taken massive action and you're extremely creative. Have you flirted with burnout? How do you keep yourself in check? If you have, talk to me.
Burnout.
Talk to me about burnout. What does that word even mean? I mean, I struggle with it, but time and money are tied up in there somewhere.
There are weeks where I'm like, okay, I'm going to clear 3 days on my calendar. I'll just reschedule it. I'll inherit whatever avalanche of rescheduling I'll need to do. But if I'm approaching burnout, I'll just be like, all right, get this off my calendar. And again, like comfortable disappointing people. But if I can't function or if I can't show up like as, the kind of person that I want to be, or the kind of person that's going to be, valuable in a conversation with someone, I don't want to waste their time. I want something to come out of all of those meetings.
What are some of the tangible signals or just signs that you see where you're like, all right, I'm flirting, I'm getting a little too close here. Let's clear some time on the calendar. Like, what are the literal
I usually get sick.
You usually get sick? Yeah.
I mean,
it's quite the indicator.
It comes up pretty quickly. So, I would like to be like, well, I'm a guest on a podcast. I've got it all figured out, but it's not much more sophisticated than anybody else who's approaching burnout. I start like regretting how I'm spending my time. I'm like, oh, why did I go to that? I could have stayed home. I could have gotten something more important done. Why did I say yes? I think sometimes like when I start questioning why I said yes to stuff, when I realize I haven't eaten at home in a little, like way too long, or I've been eating like conference food or hotel food or traveling too much and, not exercising, feeling kind of gross in my body, feeling inflamed or whatever, unhealthy.
How's your sleep? Is it pretty consistent?
I woke up late for a call at 9 a.m. this morning.
Because you're a good sleeper? Like just because
Because I took 3 sleep gummies. I don't take like sleep aids, but they're like melatonin.
Yep.
They're good. It's this brand called Ollie, but it says to take 2. And I'm like, I'm going to take 3. And it's like, it's not good. So I sleep really well for the most part. Sometimes alcohol can mess that up. So I try to be mindful of how much alcohol I consume and like how late I consume it. Same with coffee. It's almost 1 o'clock and I don't know, I might have another one, but those sleep gummies help a lot. But to the extent that like I'm waking up a little bit too late and I need to set too many alarms or keep like a window open so daylight, like, gives me melasma by the time I wake up.
I love it. It gives you melasma. Melatonin and melasma, right? Melatonin at night, melasma. So question for you. I don't know if I've read this somewhere or if I heard you say it, but, as you were catapulted into this world of all these fancy people and then all these different shifts happen in your life, is it safe to say your circle's gotten smaller? And how do you manage communication? So inbound, as someone who also has been at this social media game too for way, way, way too long. And not only that, but email and text. And how do you keep your barriers there and boundaries in place?
I don't.
You don't?
I just don't.
Okay. You don't.
No. Sometimes I email people like a month later.
But that's okay because that's when you got to it, right? I mean, that's okay.
No, but that's not a great feeling for anybody. And I'm not like too special to respond. I'm also just trying to triage the most urgent stuff. And it's like taxes and car insurance and a leaking roof. It's just like having a home ownership and like health.
Yeah. Like physical, real appointments.
Full-time job.
I know.
I don't even have kids. Like, I don't have an excuse,
But at least you're sleeping. I mean, that's a good thing. But do you have a system of sorts? So every once in a while, this happens where I just like kind of lash back at my communication and I'll turn my out of office on for a year. Or like I learned how to do out of office or autoresponder on text. And it's nice because it just says, hey, this inbox is full. You can email here. And it's easy. You just go into the driving setting. And I just discovered this like maybe earlier this year. And I had a moment the other day where I was like,
the driving setting?
You go into the driving setting, but you can customize the response and then you just leave it on driving all the time. And you can negate who you don't want.
Driving one from someone and I'm like, how are you always driving?
You can extract the people like certain clients or family members or friends. And it's not that everyone, I've created a lack of boundary that's caught up to me, right? So like with Renegade, there's several hundred people who we voice note or text, and that's just obviously not sustainable. So it's a redirect, but it's really magic. I can show you how.
I'm like, where's the setting? I'm like so ready. I'm looking at my phone.
Okay, we can even do it right now for anyone that's listening. So if you go in and you know where it says like focus, do not disturb. So you go to driving and you hit settings, and then it says auto reply. Go to auto reply.
Yeah.
And it gives you, if you scroll down, auto reply message. Yeah, mine says like, hey, here's my...
Okay, read it to me.
It says this text message inbox is full. Please email instead if you need a business response. Amy at the rest of my email. And then it says if you have an urgent matter, please call. Renegades write the rules. Thank you, Ajo.
But you have a business phone number.
I have one phone number for all of my life. Like, this is the only mobile number I've ever had. And so the other day I had 250 unread text messages, and that's not like me at all. But you can negate people too that don't get that. Anyway, I'm telling you, like, wow, just being able to breathe, because you don't want to have to owe people a response right away, but you also care. So anyway,
yeah,
that's my tip.
I'm like so excited.
Yeah,
thank you.
Absolutely. But for you with your circle, so do you have a set of friends or a set of group of like a couple of people that they're your people, you hang out with them, and then that's it?
Kind of. Yeah. I mean, I was thinking about my 40th birthday, and I'm like, there's like a few really close friends. There's a lot of people that I know that I also care about, but like, who do I want to see? Like, you're supposed to make a big stink about your 40th. And I'm like, I don't really care. Not that it's depressing. I'm like, fine. I'm like, cool. I'll like, figured out hygiene. And I got my eyebrows tattooed. I'm like, I think I'm okay. My life is good. So I'm not like, 40, I don't have kids. 40, I haven't blank. I'm like, cool, whatever. So I'm like, it's not like, I don't want to do something. I don't care only because it's not actually like a milestone for me. But, yeah, I've got like 3 best friends. One's in New York, one's here in LA. 2 are here in LA. And then, those are all girls. And then actually 3 are in LA. And I just went to Bali with one of them. And then there's like, I would say like one dude friend, Johnny, he's in New York. And then my boyfriend, but like, it's pretty small. And we'll go on like couples dates in LA with other couples. And like, there's people I really enjoy, but, I've got like my close friends. I don't have I didn't go to college. So I don't have like the group of people that I graduated with who are all getting married and all having kids and all, like I don't, these are friends that I, met in my 20s, but they're like, kind of scattered. I don't have the like friends from high school or no friends from high school, no friends from college. So it's kind of like, and I'm also an only child. So I'm just like flailing always, just like.
But I imagine that has changed over time because you probably have said no to a lot of social things over the years, or you could be spending a lot more time out and about, free time with other things. I'm sharing this because I've been thinking about it lately of just how much tighter my circle keeps getting, but just because our time is so limited.
I don't have time to catch up like with everybody. So like, let's get together and catch up. No, like, what are you up to? Cool. Let's like, I don't know. I mean, I will catch up with people, but it's like people in LA like have weekdays free. They want to like, it's like they're freelancing, they're in entertainment or whatever. And I'm like, Monday through Friday, I'm working. And I kind of don't really want to stay out very late for dinner because then I'll take melatonin and sleep oversleep. And then weekends, I kind of want to be free and I want to sit in my backyard and, it's beautiful and maybe get brunch with my best friend. And then like, lollygag.
Yeah.
So it's like, when do people find the time for that? I can't go as hard as I used to, so I burn out a lot faster than I did in my 20s.
Yeah. I think it was, maybe this is helpful to you, maybe not, but I remember hearing, it was one of Oprah's big landmark birthdays, maybe 50, 60, and she had this big party scheduled, and then it got closer, and evidently she or Gail or someone said, wait, why are we doing this? And they just called it off and just had like a very intentional tight group. And because you end up like getting into all the BS of all of the things in the party and you're Yeah, so I think you're onto it. When we ran into each other earlier this year, you asked me a question, and I remember just thinking, wow, it's very honest and real. But I mentioned Lincoln, my son, who's 4.5 now, and you said, what's it really like? Like, is it real good? And or something along the lines of just like motherhood. And I answered, and we started talking about children and kids and stuff. And you said something about like, hey, yeah, I'm not sure if like Amalfi and wine, if that's it for me, and maybe it is.
I know. I
And
know.
how do you feel just because you're so open, but I think that's so real and a lot of people aren't, that you're just going to share how you're like the truth.
Yeah.
How are you
Yeah.
with that conversation and just, that topic in
Yeah.
general?
Yeah, that's a loaded question. I think like if, 4 years ago, I would have been like, I don't know how long ago it was, 5, whatever. Like okay, I'm doing IVF and I miscarried. That happened. But like, when you ask people, how's it going with the kid thing? It can be they're obviously not pregnant, or maybe they are pregnant, but it's like, who know, they're not, they haven't done a scan. But like when someone says they're trying, it's like, of course, when you catch up with them, you want to say, you want to ask about their life. But so often they're like heartbroken or disappointed. And oh my God, I got my period again. That's like, if you are trying to conceive, like not telling people is almost better, because if it's not working out, you don't want to answer that question. Oh, we like miscarried, or I got no eggs, or whatever it might be. I'm pretty distant from that right now. And I mean, kids are kind of like, I'm like, I really wanted a kid, and I'm so glad I didn't have one with the person I tried with. So glad. And now I'm just kind of like, I think I like my life. And I just fucking overslept. Like, I'm almost 40. Like, I'm not functioning. Like, I'm just trying to drink water. Like I forget my own stuff at home. I'm going to forget their stuff. Like, I'm sure people get it together when they have a kid, but I haven't even gotten it together for myself. And I think I'm like, am I too selfish? Like, do I want to drive to soccer games 2 hours away on weekends? Like, I don't know. That sounds crazy. But yeah, and I see my friends' kids, and instead of being like, oh, that's so cool, when they get pregnant, I'm like, fuck, I lost another friend. Not like lost, but like the whole thing changed.
You did.
Now we can't just like get drinks spontaneously. Like the whole thing changed. We're still friends, of course. And I meet their kid, and I'm not like, ooh, I'm like, hey, buddy, what's up? Like, I'm just kind of, I don't even know how to talk to them. So
I didn't either.
and I'm not like, they're part of my heart breaks whenever a friend gets pregnant, because it seems so easy for them. And I still have like trauma around that not working out for me. And there's nothing that hasn't worked out for me nothing I've wanted so bad that hasn't worked out for me in my life than that. So much has worked out, but I like didn't really plan for it. I was like, whoa, cool. Like, I worked hard for Nasty Gal, but it all happened so fast. I tried for years to get pregnant, and to be now, like years later, like, I don't know about that. And it's not even like a defense mechanism or some way of, yeah, it's like, actually, I'm not sure, which is so crazy, because it was something that I really, really wanted.
I appreciate you just even sharing that, because it is so unheard of that people talk through and they're real. Like, I think, I don't know, maybe it's everything you've gone through, but you just are so genuine and not willing to show up in any other way. And I think that's not super common. And so, I can see why you're so freaking relatable, and people are like, to everything you do, is because you are you, right? It's just who you are. But no, keep living. And sounds like poker. Is it the thrill of the game? Is it the conversation? Like, what do you dig about poker?
Yeah, I mean, it's spending real time with people. It's not like let's catch up. It's getting to know people, the way they think, like their appetite for risk, how much money they have to throw around, which is kind of interesting. That's not why I'm not evaluating people, but people will like dump money, and you're like,
Molly's been on this podcast too, from Molly's Game.
Oh,
Do you know
cool.
her
Yeah,
personally?
we're in touch.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't.
I've
And then
never seen the
another
movie.
Annie, another poker lady. Annie.
Ooh.
Anyway, like, but go ahead. So, do you? Sounds fast. I want to be a fly on the wall. Is it like at the Troubadour or whatever? Is this the real thing? The whole scene in
Just do
LA?
it. I
Okay.
just host at my house. I bought a
Oh, cool.
$250 table on Amazon and I have people come over who like play. Some of them play a lot more frequently. Some of them play casinos. Some of them, I have half of the All In podcast as investors in my fund,
Okay.
and Phil Hellmuth, who's like the biggest poker player kind of ever. And why? Because I love learning. Honestly, like there's math involved, which is hard. There's more restraint in poker than in anything I've ever done. And it's so immediate learning that folding is like the right move. Just speaking of like, why not now? Or maybe just why not? Like it's very, once you learn kind of like the ranges you play and how to play in position.
Do you have a playlist for music, or like do you just let people
Oh yeah.
choose?
Oh yeah. I think it's why people actually show up.
Well, that
Like
was a
they
big
come.
thing with mom. Go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, I feel like that's how it started that way. Sometimes I get mixed up between us having the actual conversation on the podcast and the movie and her movie, and I'm like, but no, it's so do snacks too and all that jazz. Like it's a thing.
It's pretty tacky. I make like a pretty. It's a beautiful charcuterie, but it's about this big.
I love it.
And I get like LaCroix and I buy pizzas delivered. And some people order their own food. They're like, I'm going to get like pokey or something healthier, but I'm like, I'm getting pizza. And then
Do you
I have
chit
everybody.
chat while you're doing a hand? Like, do you chit chat? Are you talking about something, or are you really focused on the game?
I'm pretty focused on the game. But people chit chat. They're chit chatting. They're like, I'm actually choosing people with personality and charisma more specifically, and people who have a certain level of acumen. So it's like relatively fair and not like someone playing for the first time at the table. But I'm actually having something in my house on Friday. Are you around? Are you in you're in LA? Where are you
I'm in
around?
Austin, unfortunately, but I'll be in LA soon. So if it works out, I want to come and
You live in
watch.
LA?
No, I used to live in San Diego. When I interviewed you, I was living on the boat trying to figure out my
Okay.
life.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, I think it's
Um,
because I saw you in LA last.
yeah.
But
Okay,
yeah, I'm
I'm gonna
hosting.
see if you have anything when in December when I'm.
Yeah, yeah.
I know we need to wrap up here, but I have a few quick questions I want to make sure that we cover too on trust fund and just if there's any call to action for anyone that or any whether it be founders or you want to plug someone in your portfolio or whatever it may be. Let's make sure that we touch on that. I saw your AI chatbot Tyler's thing
I
pop up
know.
and
I'm like, I never actually used that.
but
So
it's cool. I was like, oh, is he telling us, giving us like, hey, don't forget to talk about this.
ew.
But I said there's an AI company in your portfolio, isn't there?
Yeah, there's two. One's called Nectar AI, and it's these two women in Seattle, Misbah and Farah. They're sisters, and they worked at Meta specifically in kind of messaging, private messaging, and that, now more time is spent in messaging on social platforms than in feed or anywhere else. And they're creating something where brands can connect with customers in, that's AI assisted, that their team has kind of like a portal backend, but it also sends messages through Instagram. It's more sophisticated than that, but they're very early. So trust fund invested in that. And also one is called Browse AI, which basically turns anything on the internet into like a Google alert. So you can select an entire website, say like a LinkedIn company profile, and it'll have you like name a title for each of those fields. So company name, number of employees, location, whatever. And then it will like map that into the browse. That's a Chrome extension. It'll map it into the browse platform, and it will dynamically update changes on those pages and alert you when the company's headcount goes up or down. If you have an e-commerce site, you can do that on a company's product detail page and see when the price is, when they drop a price.
Very cool. Browse
Which
AI.
is, yeah, it's really cool.
Okay. Both B2B and like, could you do it for pricing on an airline or something like that? Like probably.
Anything. Yeah.
Okay.
Anything. Yeah.
When I say the word renegade, who comes to mind?
What's a renegade? I mean, Liquid Death are renegades. I think, they're selling water, but they've created a brand that people are obsessed with, and it's water. It's canned water. So if you can turn canned water into something that people identify with, like as a brand, especially a brand that like has like heavy metal text and skulls on the front and is like in every, 7-Eleven and Erewhon and everything, massive, massive distribution. I think that's like very much a coup. And there's very few brands that can have like an abrasive brand, an abrasive like name, similar to Nasty Gal. That can pull that off.
I love it. And then when you look back at, let's say 2016, because that's where this all started, that's when we first connected. If you were to go back and say, all right, things are about to change to yourself. If you knew that you could give yourself just a little bit of either wisdom or say something, it doesn't have to be advice. It could just be anything. What would you go back and say pre some of those big shifts?
Yeah. There's a Rainer Maria Rilke quote that is, "No feeling is final." And I think it's just important to remember that you may not have perspective right now, but you will. And the feeling that you have right now will change. It will go away, even if it feels like, the end of the world or some certainty. Beyond death, there's not a lot of certainty. Everything changes and everything's in flux. And that's the hardest thing, is embracing ambiguity. But when you think that you know something, remember that it's, chances are it's not true and it's not permanent, like nothing is certain.
It's so good. That's really good. Thank you so much. Thank you. Keep showing up and sharing.
Thank you.
Yeah, I really appreciate you. And till next time, hopefully it'll be sooner than 7 or 8 years.
I know. So much will happen between now and then.
I know we'll have a lot. All right. Thank you so much. And you are a true renegade. Absolutely. And we'll keep following along.
All right. I'll talk to you soon.